Hi, my name is Betsy. I'm a Lubbock Master Gardener and friend of the public library. When I grew up, gardening ended at the end of the summer and everything closed down. But here in Lubbock, fall extends the gardening season. And in September, the cooler air invites us out into the yard. So, what are the things that we can do in September? Here's a list of some tasks. You'll notice that the first three items have to do with planting. Plants do best in fertile soil. Now, it can be in a pot, a raised bed, or in the ground. So let's begin by talking about what you can plant. First, there are cool season vegetables. The thing we have to keep in mind is the average first frost date. In Lubbock, it's October 31st, and that gives us 30 to 60 days of growing time. You'll see here packets for lettuce. Lettuce can be planted, and you'll want to check each packet to see how many days it takes to mature. But you might even get a couple crops in before the end of October. Radish matures in about 22 days, so there's plenty of time to plant radish. And then on the right you see chard, carrots, kale, and those are actually okay with a little frost. Those plants might even overwinter for a spring harvest. There's always information on the seed packet that will help you know, or you can look up information online. Fall is also the preferred time to plant trees, shrubs, and perennials. Those are plants that grow year after year, surviving several seasons. Some trees and shrubs lose their leaves in cold weather. Or, in the case of perennials, they often die back to the ground. It's a rest time for those plants. But the roots are alive and well below the ground, and fall planting allows those roots to develop, so they're ready to really take off in the spring. You might plant a small start of a tree or a shrub like that middle picture, or even a bare root shrub. Let me give you an example, because planting a tree or shrub is a long-term addition to your yard. Here in 2015 on the left, you can see a small shoot of a tree. Now that one's actually a pecan, but I had a peach tree that was just about that size that I planted in 2015. And if you look at the picture on the right, you can see how much that tree has matured. The trunk is thick and solid. It has large branches and plenty of fruit ready to harvest. Now, perennial flowers, such as those that are pictured here, really do well and thrive in our soil here in Lubbock, and they can take our heat and our water conditions. Most perennial flowers bloom in the spring and the summer, some in the fall. Perennials do best when they're divided every 3 years. So if you're interested in planting some perennials at this time of year, often you can get root divisions from other gardeners who are dividing their plants. September is the best time to divide the plants and to plant the roots so that those roots get a good solid growth during the cooler seasons. One source of information about perennials is the Lubbock Master Gardener website. You see the address up there at the top. And the website, when you get to the home page, you can type in whatever it is you want to search in the search engine and come up with more information. Also on the home page, you can submit questions and members will get back to you. All right, we've talked about planting on our checklist here. There are several more things that you still can do. Let's look next at rooting healthy shoots for indoor winter plants. Shoots is the term for stems and leaves of a plant. On the left is a really healthy wandering Jew plant that did great outside this summer. I pinched off a few of the growing tips and put them in water. And in the middle picture, you can see the arrow is pointing to new roots that are developing along that stem where leaves had been. On the right is a coleus, and coleus also roots well in water. You'd want to break it off just about where my fingers are. Strip off a few leaves because the new roots will develop at the place where those leaf joints were. Now, other things that root easily in water are herbs like mint, basil, rosemary, thyme, oregano, and also plants like ivy, begonia, impatiens, and geraniums. You can often root these plants to be inside, and then you'll have plants healthy by late winter, where you can root some more plants for outdoors next summer. Another to-do on our September list is harvesting herbs. Here's an example. There's basil on the left, a lemon basil, and in the center there, a purple basil. You can gather the stalks with leaves on them, turn the stalks upside down, tie them together as pictured here, and let them just dry in a cool, dry place. Another way to do it is to pull off the leaves and dry them in the oven. You can also pull off leaves and lay them out on a screen or paper towel and let them air dry. Whatever way you determine to dry the leaves, once the leaves are dry, you would crumble them and then store your herbs in a container like an old pill bottle or some other container that will keep them dry. And you'll want to experiment with the different ways of drying them to see which maintains the best flavor for you. Another way to store herbs is to freeze them. And if you choose to do that, you'll want to pull off the leaves, chop them up fine, and put them in water in an ice cube tray. Then through the winter, you can take out a cube of herb ice and put it in as a flavor into soups and sauces. Well, here we are. We have now talked about a couple more of the items on our checklist. The next thing to talk about is cleaning up summer gardens. Here's an example. On the left is an iris bed at my house. Last spring was a wonderful time for iris in Lubbock. They were beautiful all over the city. By August, my iris bed looked about like the middle picture. Now it's important to let the iris foliage get all brown like this because it's the green leaves that absorb the sunlight, and through photosynthesis they actually build the roots and prepare for next year's iris crop. But you can see the dry stalks, and some of the leaves have fallen and are down in the bed. And then in the right is the way that I've cleaned up the bed for the winter. I've trimmed off the remaining green leaves and raked up all those dry stalks. Now I can dig up and divide the iris roots, or rhizomes as they're called, or I could just cover them in a couple months with a mulch of leaves for winter protection. Another thing we'll do is add enrichments to our garden beds so that they're ready for more planting. The bed on the left picture, the raised bed there, is one that I had tomatoes and eggplant in this summer. I pulled out those plants in August, and you can see bits of the straw that I was using for mulch around the plants. So the straw is still there. It will decompose and actually help to build the soil. I also added some cotton burr compost to that raised bed and dug it in. So now that bed is ready for me either to plant some fall crops in or to just let it rest and the soil build for planting in the spring. The middle picture is a picture of a pile of wood chips. And did you know that you can get free wood chips from the city of Lubbock? Check out their website or check with a gardener to find out how you do that. We've gone through several of the items on the checklist. The final thing to consider is adjusting the watering for cooler temperatures. If you have automatic sprinklers, change those settings. It's better for your plants and lawns because they need water still, but just not so much as they did in the heat. And that always adds to a much more efficient use of water. So you see from this list, there's lots you can do in the yard in September. Happy gardening, and we look forward to sharing more tips in the future. Bye.